Hey YouTube, this is Nurse Jessica and this is my channel, Jessica Lovato RN, coming at you this week with another awesome video. This week we are talking about night shift. What's it like to be a night shift nurse and how do you make it through? Basically, this is a survival guide for nights. Nights can be hard. We're not supposed to be awake at night, but we do it. How do we make it through? And not just how do we make it through, but how do we excel? I'm going to give you all the info right here, right now. I do videos on nursing, what it's like to be a nurse, tips and tricks of the trade, interviews with nurses, and also healthy living, because as healthcare workers, we should be examples of health. So if those are topics that might interest you, please subscribe below. And also don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. I drop videos every week and let's get started. Guys, this week we are talking about the night shift. As you know, if you've been watching my channel, I am currently a night shift nurse in the ICU. It is a lot different than the day shift for many reasons, but I have had a few requests to do a video on how I make it through for people who might be going into the night shift or currently working the night shift and feeling a little bit like a zombie. So I have made a list of tips. Some are personal, some are professional. So let's get to it. Okay, here we go. So let's start with personal tips. I'm going to be talking about things like sleeping, eating, scheduling, that sort of thing. So let's just get right to it. I'm going to start with sleep. This is probably the first thing people think about when they're starting a night shift is, when the heck am I going to sleep? Am I going to be tired all the time? This sounds horrible. And at first, I'm just gonna, full disclosure, it kind of is. Takes a little while to get used to it, but you can get used to it. And your brain is gonna start working again, I promise. So for me, when I make the switch, the night before I go into a shift, I sleep about 2 to 3 hours. So I try to take about a 2 to 3 hour nap. And then I go in and I'm up for that night. For me, that is enough sleep to make it through that first night because I still sort of have that reservoir of sleep from the night before. So that works. And then when I get home the next morning, I go straight to bed. I like say hi to my family, wash my face, brush my teeth, bed. I have a sleeping mask because it's important for your body to think that it's nighttime. So sleeping mask or blackout curtains are great. And for me, I take valerian root, which for me works perfect. And I would say if you need something to kind of help you sleep, start with something natural before you ask for some Ambien or something. So a lot of nurses I know use valerian root. They use melatonin. Trying to think what else I've heard. Valerian root, melatonin, or Unisom, Benadryl, those kinds of things. So it's pretty mild. And then I usually wake up again around 3 or 4, spend a few hours with my family, and then I go to work. And so that is what I do for sleep. And on my last day, I sleep till about noon, and then I'm up until I go to bed around 10. So that is what I do for sleep. The next thing I want to talk about is the schedule, and this sort of pertains to sleep as well. Please schedule your 3 nights in a row if you can, because then you can really make the switch. Okay, sleep in the day, awake at night, sleep in the day, awake at night. And you can do that 3 nights in a row, and then you have 4 days to be sleeping during the night and awake during the day. If you're working every other day, which I know some people that do that, I don't know how they do it. It's like, I'm like, that is really hard, but they do. But for me, I would say, and if you're someone that really needs to be on a schedule, do your 3 in a row and then have your 4 off. And that really helps your body make that switch from days to nights. And at least you have a chunk where you're in a schedule and then another chunk where your body's in another schedule. Next, food. If you live in a city, I'm sure it's possible for you to do Grubhub, and you probably have a lot of places that are open late. For me, that's not necessarily true. We're inside kind of a medium-sized city, but most things are closed by midnight. So treat your body and your wallet and just pack a lunch, because then you know that you're gonna have something healthy that you can eat when you start to get hungry, and you're not gonna be spending a bunch of money on eating out, plus the fee to get delivered and all of that. So as far as my eating schedule goes, usually what I do is the day that I'm going in for my first night, I still eat normally, and then I'll have a small lunch around 1 or 2 in the morning. And then I go home, don't eat, just go to sleep. And then when I wake up, that's kind of like my reset, so that my breakfast is around 5 or 6. Breakfast, you know, it's other people's dinner time, but now it's your breakfast time. So then you can make that switch. And then the day that I'm done, after my third day, I go home, sleep again, and then I'll usually eat around 2 or 3. And then have dinner. And then I'm back on a regular food schedule. But I think the most important thing is you don't want to be eating constantly throughout a 24-hour period. So I only have my first day that I'm going into work where I'm eating through that 24-hour period. The rest of the time I'm trying to eat within a 12-hour window. And that could be a whole nother video on intermittent fasting, but just even if you're not doing night shifts, just eat within 12, at most a 12-hour window. Most people think they do, but the average person eats within a 15-hour window, and that really jacks with your metabolism. Like I said, we could do a whole video on that, but just try to keep it within 12 hours at the most. If you can, do 10 or 9. The next thing we'll talk about is caffeine. You don't have to drown yourself in caffeine, which I've said before, and you guys know that I really believe in drinking water first before going to the caffeine, and I do believe that water works better ultimately to keep you hydrated and give you the most energy. But a lot of people on nights do need a little extra caffeine boost just to make it through, especially through that first night. So I'd say do bring some caffeine, or if you have a coffee machine or tea bags or whatever at work, then that works too. But don't drink coffee too late. I don't care how tired you are, just don't drink it past 3, because then you're not going to be sleeping good during the day. And if you can't hit that reset and get a good 6, 7, 8 hours during that following day, then you're just going to be miserable. The next thing I want to talk about is movement. I mean, we're nurses, so we do move a lot anyways, but if for whatever reason you're having kind of a slow night, then make sure you're getting up and stretching and walking around, maybe climb a flight of stairs, because that's going to keep you awake too. Because if you're sitting for too long, you're going to find yourself doing one of these in your chair. That's happened to me before. Full disclosure, I'm not saying I'm always bright in the sunshine through my night shifts, because sometimes it's a little bit harder than others, but a tip is to move. Just keep moving and grooving, guys. It's 12 hours, you can do it. You can do it. We are through my personal tips. So those are my personal tips to take care of you. So now we're gonna move on to my professional tips of getting through the night shift. So this has more to do with patient care and interdisciplinary interaction. So your interaction with doctors and other nurses and ancillary support, etc., etc. Okay, so number 1 tip is make sure to cluster your care. That means try to do as many things that you can do at one time when you're in that room. You know, a lot of first-time patients don't realize this, but it's hard to get sleep when you're in the hospital, because you do have people coming in and out of your room, even at night. You know, not just the nurse, but the lab, the RT. So it is really important as a night nurse to prioritize your patient's sleep and try to make that happen for them, no matter what unit you're on. So after you get your report, you do your chart checks, look at all your patient's meds, get everything that's due within about a 2-hour time period. Sometimes you'll have random medications that are maybe due at midnight or at 3 in the morning or 6 in the morning. Obviously you can't be giving those at 9 p.m., but if you have some things due at 8, some one at 9, then just grab it all. So make sure you're getting that. If you need to do any wound care, if you need to do an IV, if your patient wants to take a bath, you can totally do your bath at the beginning of the shift, or you can do it at the very end. I'm trying to think what else. If they have any concerns. If there's anything you need to call the doctor for, like they have a home med that helps them to sleep that didn't get restarted, try to find all that out within the first 2 to 3 hours of your shift and get it done in that time period. Your patient will thank you because then you're going to be in and out of their room less during the rest of the night. Hopefully they can get some sleep. And the doctor will thank you because you're less likely to be calling them at 11, midnight, 1 in the morning. Oh, my patient can't sleep, or they didn't get this nighttime med. Just try to get it all done. Cluster care. And so let's talk a little bit more about getting the patient to sleep. As a night nurse, that is a really important part of your job. Of course, you want to keep them stable through the night. Some patients are sicker than others, so sometimes it's just impossible for you to not be in and out of that room all night. But if they're fairly stable, they need rest. Rest helps you heal. Simple as that. So you need to know what your patient needs to get comfortable for that night. If they have trouble moving, you need to be turning them, getting them comfortable, giving them pillows, having their head of the bed at whatever angle is appropriate for them. If they're cold, get them blankets. If they have a PRN med to help them sleep, get them that. If they're in pain, get them a pain medication. You need to keep them comfortable. Also, maybe if they have like a temp, give them Tylenol, anything that could progress throughout the night to make things worse for that patient and for you. You want to really get in there and nip it in the bud, guys. Get in there, nip it in the bud. Okay. So, and then also I even, like at our hospital, we have a channel that has soothing music. I'll throw that on for them if they're the kind of person that needs a little bit of white noise. And also because we're awake, sometimes, you know, we're talking to each other, things are happening out here. So there can be noise outside of their room. So that acts sort of as a sound barrier. And then of course, dim their lights. Even if they're intubated and they're not conscious, these things do matter. Patients need a sleep cycle and their subconscious needs to be recognizing on some level that there is a daytime and a nighttime. So make sure that you're doing everything you can, everything that you would do for yourself before you go to bed, brush their teeth, all of that. So sleep, 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 important, important, important. If we can't get it, we need to at least make sure they can get it. The next thing I want to talk about is calling the doctor. I talked about this a little bit already. Try to talk to your patient, get to know them, anticipate their needs earlier in the shift so you can call the doc then, as opposed to calling them at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I mean, knowing it is there, if you need to call them at those times, call them because that is their job. But if there's something you can do to avoid that, especially if it's for something that isn't really emergent, then do it. Because grumpy, tired doctors, no offense guys, aren't fun. Also, I just wanted to touch on AM labs. Generally, as a night shift nurse, you'll be drawing, or if they have a central line or an arterial line, you will be drawing the AM labs, or the phlebotomist will be drawing them. They're generally ordered for about 5 in the morning. So get them at 5 in the morning, because most hospitals have protocol that says that you need to call a doctor with a critical lab value within half an hour. So if you're getting your labs at 3 or 4 in the morning and one comes back as critical, then you're going to be making a phone call at 3 or 4 in the morning. So just follow the order. If they're due at 5, then go pull them at 5. The next thing I want to talk about is using your resources. So as a night nurse, you don't have as many, I feel like I said nurse. As a night nurse, you don't have as many resources as they do in the day. During the day, doctors they're there, they're rounding, they can be called, there's more ancillary support, more techs, physical therapy to help you get people moving. So you need to learn to use your resources in lieu of that. So if you're concerned about something, or if you need help with something, go to your other night nurses first. So ask your other nurses with more experience. After that, ask the charge, and then go from there. Don't right away jump to trying to call the doctor for something. Use the resources that you have available to you that are awake. I also want to talk about things that the night shift should do. fact of the matter, I'm just gonna squash this right now. I work days and I work nights. The fact of the matter is that days are more busy than nights. That doesn't mean that you don't have crazy nights, because sometimes you do, because you have patients that are really busy because they're really sick or they're needy or they're confused. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but I'm saying during the day, you are guaranteed to be busy because you're rounding with doctors, you're rounding with PT and OT, and everyone wants to talk to you. And their care is constantly changing and their meds are constantly changing. And, you know, other people are being consulted. So you are guaranteed to be busy. I'm just saying, okay? So as the night nurse, you can have crazy nights, but a lot of the times you have less obstacles in your 12 hours than a day shift nurse would. So there are things that a day shift won't necessarily get to that, in my opinion, it is your responsibility, our responsibility to take care of. So those are things primarily like cleaning the room and bathing the patient. I've come into many a messy room, but I don't judge because I know that that's like the last thing on your priority list. So I always make sure the room is clean, the linens are changed, the trash is taken out. So not just for the day nurse to walk into a clean room, but for the patient, because don't you just feel better when you're in a clean space instead of a dirty space? You know, that does affect a person mentally. And also, baths should mostly be done at night. There are a lot of day nurses that do baths during the day, and there are a lot of floors that have techs that do baths during the day as well, because a lot of people don't want to do baths at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. But if you're in a situation like I am in the ICU where we don't always have techs and you have 2 patients, then just go ahead and give them a bath around 4 or 5 in the morning when things have kind of slowed down for you. But it's still not in the middle of the night, so they've had that sleep cycle. And it helps the patient to heal as well, and it helps you to move them around so that they're not, you know, getting things like pressure ulcers, and it makes them feel good, because if you're clean, you're gonna healthy mind, healthy body, right? So the last thing I want to talk about is, if you're debating whether or not to start on nights, if you're a new nurse, I would encourage you to, not just because it's a little less overwhelming, but now that I'm working nights, and I did start on days, but now that I'm working nights, I realize that this actually really helps to develop your ability to think like a nurse, because you don't have the doctor right there to do all the thinking for you. Not to say that day nurses just let the doctors do the thinking for them, but I'm saying as a night nurse, part of your goal is to not be bugging the doctor at night. So you really have to look at your patient, see what's going on, see what you have available, what makes sense, ask your charge nurse, like hash things out with other nurses. And it does help you to think like a nurse, because instead of saying, okay, my patient has a temp of 102. I'm just going to call the doctor right away. You say, okay, my patient has a temp of 102. Okay, that's high enough that I'd like to give them something for that. You can go look at their MAR. Oh, great, they have Tylenol. I'm going to give them that. And then what else could I do? Okay, they have all these blankets on them. I'm going to take the blankets off. Let's do some ice packs, or maybe I can give them a bath. So you try all these things first to solve the problem instead of immediately jumping to the doctor. And so that helps build your brain, your nurse brain, and makes you more prepared for the challenges ahead. Okay guys, that was a little bit of a long video, but I hope that was helpful, and I hope that answered some questions for those of you that have been asking about what it's like to be a night nurse and how to make it through the night shift successfully. Again, my name is Jessica Lovato. I am an RN, and this is my channel, Jessica Lovato RN. So please like, subscribe, leave comments and suggestions if there's anything you would like me to talk about. Thank you so much for all the support that I've gotten so far. This has been so fun, and have a healthy week.